So I really enjoyed this project. I could see myself live there. I think it's a combination of these really remarkable found objects and then a very masterful way of weaving in new construction. I think the architect did a really good job of editing. So there's quite a seamless sense of new and old that is wonderfully coexisting here, even to the extent where the completely new structure was designed in such a way that it could have been one of these found objects. It could have been an existing structure. It's really hard to distinguish between the new and old here.
Well, thank you very much for recognizing our project for an award. My name is Malcolm Davis. My firm is Malcolm Davis Architecture. I'm a Bay Area native. A lot of our work is on the California coast, so it's fun to see a project recognized in Pacifica. It was fun working with this client on this project because the site was potentially a teardown, but I was really pleased that we were able to keep the house and sort of remind people of Pacifica's heritage of small little fishing houses and not trying to make it anything that it wasn't, but at the same time trying to add the space that the owner needed and trying to make it a Title 24 compliant structure that was going to, go through the next 80 years without water running down the walls. So the challenge with the site was to add the program to the house, add 1,500 square feet to a 1,000 square foot structure without overwhelming it, and creating an outdoor space, which we did by putting the outdoor space between the two volumes of the building. And I thought what was really interesting about when we started working on the house and figuring what we were going to add, I thought it was interesting that owner wanted sort of a work from home space. He kind of liked the idea of kind of a lofty, big, empty space. First thing that comes to mind is kind of like a barn. And I think it's kind of interesting that, over time, there's always sort of been the little farmhouse with the barn, and that those two architectures could be completely different. And I think it's interesting that the house kind of reads that way, that there's the little house and then there's the workspace, which actually is kind of like the barn. And then that they connect at the lower level, but they don't connect at the upper level. The space between the buildings, sort of the negative space, becomes this important outdoor room with these great views of the ocean, and it's protected by the two building volumes. So it's kind of neat. It's this sort of contained outdoor space that's defined by the two volumes of buildings. It's also kind of fun because when the owner goes to work, he walks across the roof deck. So his experience of leaving the house and going to his office does involve the outdoors for about 20 feet. And I think what I always try and achieve in a project is sort of an order and sense of calm and almost inevitability, something where it doesn't necessarily jump out at you when you first look at it, but as you spend time with it, you maybe find cool little details or an interesting way that light moves through the space to animate it. Our attitude about sustainability is if you can not throw something away, it's always a good first step. And the idea was to catch sort of as much character was actually there without sort of creating, not distressing wood, but we had distressed wood, so let's go with that. Sort of working with the strengths of the thing you're given. That's always sort of a good plan if you're trying to make things simpler. We realized that may not be the least expensive way of doing it, but that if we can keep the stuff out of the landfill and we have authentic character in the actual wood that's there, we're not distressing wood to make it look old, that we can actually play to the strengths of the existing structure and make that something beautiful. And then our new structure can sort of learn some of the lessons of the old house, sort of the exposed framing, narrative, and understanding what the building materials are, and sort of built in a new way. So it's kind of funny. We have the new version and the old version, and they're sort of married by the outdoor space. Let's see, I think the material palette, we wanted to keep that sort of reinforcing the two different natures of the building. So we used corrugated Cor-Ten on the barn structure, sort of looks just like a vernacular old shed that could have been there forever. And then the house, we used a cementitious siding because of the proximity to the ocean, we wanted something low maintenance and long lasting. Windows are actually fiberglass, sort of looking for things that would be sustainable and hard wearing that close to the ocean. When I first looked at it, I really didn't know what we were going to do with it. And it's interesting to sort of look at my previous work and think, okay, it was a challenging project and we did come up with a solution. So I think always the lesson I need to take away from things like this is just not being overwhelmed by the task at hand, but sort of breaking it down and starting to think about the solution and what small interventions would we make.